Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for tuning into the Cloud Native FM podcast. And this is our first episode of 2024, and we will be talking about Istio, Service Mesh, some of my favorite topic on this channel today, with some wonderful guests we have today on the lineup. So, joining us in this episode is Alessandro Vozza, platform advocate at solo.io, and also he's a CNCF ambassador. He will be sharing his industry expertise, strategies, and real-world solution to empower your organization journey towards seamless and successful service mesh integration. So stay tuned. We will be hearing some wonderful stories today from Alessandro. Once, thank you very much for being on the show and the first guest of 2024. Over to you, Alessandro. Can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience today?
Of course. Thank you, Saim. It's my honor to open up the 2024 edition of the podcast. A little bit about me. I don't know if you know me already. I'm a CNCF Ambassador, as you said, and also I work as a platform advocate at Soul.io. Used to be at Microsoft for a long time. Been organizing the local Dutch. I live in Amsterdam for 20 years now. I moved to get my PhD in chemistry. A little known fact about me, and been doing community in the Netherlands for a decade. I started with DevOps Meetup, then I moved to the CNC Cloud Native Kubernetes Meetup. It's a very successful, thriving community over here. So if you ever come by, we'll make a meetup just for you. Of course, you're gonna be special guest. We are 3,000 members. We organize KCD, Amsterdam, and Utrecht. So it's great to be part of this and to be part of since the beginning. And I work as solo for a year now, and absolutely is the best thing ever. It's at the forefront of technology, and I'll talk. I'll tell you everything about what I think about service mesh and where are we going with technology.
Absolutely, and thank you very much once again for joining the channel. And he has been doing wonderful work for over a year and for a very long time. And I think Amsterdam is one of the place where KubeCon happened. I think last year the KubeCon Europe one, and also the KCD Amsterdam happening.
Yeah.
I think it's just 2 weeks between both of these activities, having a KCD in Amsterdam and KubeCon in Amsterdam. So it's been a great city. Definitely, I will be there. I hopefully in near future,
And
but we want to learn
and if
more
you
about this from you. So
Well, actually, there's a little background story, right? So, KubeCon was heading to Amsterdam in 2020, right? So, and then COVID hit, and we were so slumped, right? So there was so much anticipation of bringing KubeCon to Amsterdam, and for 2 years we had to wait, almost 3 years. Even KCD, we had KCD with the very first KCD in the world was in Amsterdam in 2019. Not many people know that we had
yes.
350 people, and then we were really eager to start and continue in 2020. And I was contacted by a lot of cities, a lot of communities like Berlin and London to organize the next KCD, in 2020, and then COVID hit, and all our dreams were shattered. And then we wait patiently, and then we got our revenge, of course, over the disease, and we got our dreams fulfilled in April 2023. 10,000 people, so that's why 2023 was a great year for the community, for myself as well. I got married in 2023. So it's 2024 starts with a lot of expectations to top off a great year, but I think we are already on the right track, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. And as you mentioned, KubeCon Amsterdam used to be I think the largest in terms of attendees. I think they're around 10,000 in Europe. So we'll see if Paris is going to break this, or still Amsterdam will hold the largest people gathering around KubeCon as well. And I think, and also, as you mentioned, the KCD Amsterdam was the first one that happened in KCD, and that's the revolution started. Right now, the KCD happening all over the place, and one of them I'm organizing the KCD Islamabad that will be happening in April. So that's where all the KCD revolution started. So let's begin our journey. Service mesh is used to be a very hot favorite topic for mine for a very long time. I used to came across this term in 2020 when I met the co-founder of the Layer 5 community, Lee Kalkote, and
Yeah.
happened to work with on Istio side of things. But I will ask you this question. How do you define service mesh in 2024?
Yeah. So this, it's funny. So since I started working at Solo, of course, like I advocate mostly about service mesh, of course, also API gateway and Cilium. What I tell everybody, I'm on a mission to install a service mesh on every cluster. Even I make the joke, don't leave me alone with your clusters. You're gonna find a service mesh. We're gonna find Istio install. For me, it's really becoming a necessity, right? So because the requirements for security, the requirements for observability with OpenTelemetry, and the requirements for control over the traffic they are increasing, becoming really a necessary addition to almost every microservice architecture or every cloud native architecture to have a service mesh. So I think as we if we do our job right, so in this episode is also part of it, to popularize, to make service mesh more approachable, right? It's nothing weird or strange or complex, right? So it's maybe we had bad PR in the beginning also with this, but also in general, like the service mesh idea suffer from a bit of too difficult, too steep a learning curve. But we are working very hard, Solo and many other companies, many other groups within CNCF to make service mesh easier to adopt. And I think it's we are on the right track, I think.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I can tell you my story where how I came across Service Mesh. And then my question was like, what you can share your journey, how you actually get into this space. So I used to be in 2017, 2018 as DevOps engineer. And then I see all of the logging that the developers are writing is on the same portion where they write a code. So there's a code that's done some sort of function call. Let's say it's a calculator app. It's adding logic, and then of course there's the logic written when somebody throws in errors. Let's say if you do a multiply, you do a zero, and you have a counter infinity. That's logging is actually a troubleshooting of application scenario still live inside that code as well. And then we see a containerized revolution started, and then we have an orchestration war started on the 2019 2020 and used to be a before and then I want to say, where should we actually heading toward? Like, is it a possibility I can separate my code from some other internal details? Like troubleshooting will be somewhere else, and the main business logic is at the center of this piece. So that's where I actually happen to see a service mesh with a very, as Kubernetes has sidecar container in it. It's one of the orchestration technologies. You have two container in a pod, one doing a main business logic application, and then you have a troubleshooting. But I want to know from you, and I think Stanley definitely want to hear, like, what was the problem that you were solving that push you to start the service mesh journey?
Yeah, thanks. You make a great point, actually. So, what is the hype word of 2023 in cloud native? Is platform engineering, right? So, platform engineering is all about abstractions, and having a service mesh adds you another layer of abstraction over the application networking, so you can do this magic stuff like security and mutual TLS without your developers, your application developers really caring about this stuff. So you can effectively build a even better platform. And I have a talk about it. Actually, I love to talk about platform engineering as well, where I make the case that service mesh complements your tools of platform engineering building. So yeah, that's my first approach. It's also been a while. I think 2018. Of course, I love everything about technology. I love everything about cloud native. So I read about service mesh, and the idea struck in my mind. Back in the day, of course, I was at Microsoft. I was working with big enterprises, and sometimes their requirements really dictate the adoption of a service mesh. We were doing not only Istio but also Open Service Mesh, which was the most loved service mesh within Microsoft. Of course, it's unfortunately is been archived as a project, but the idea lives on, right? So, and is taken even more far with Istio and other service meshes. And there's it's also one reason I joined Solo is because you can feel this is the field where there's the most innovation, right? So there's eBPF and there's Cilium and there's Istio with ambient mesh and all this new stuff. This feels like even maybe Kubernetes now is a bit more boring and there's little less new features and fancy stuff going on. But the networking is where the game is. There's Gateway API and there's ambient mesh and there's all these new things. So people that like technology can play around with these things endlessly. And I think it's even more exciting as we go into the new year. We got all this. We really need to deliver on these promises of technology that helps business and people to achieve more, right? So.
Yes, absolutely. And I think like the next question would be around, I think right now, if you look at the service mesh vocabulary, and if the DevOps and the platform engineers really actually listening us or watching us, they actually have this question like I want to do a, let's say, canary deployment. So there are few options for me up front. Like I can do it using a service mesh with the sidecar and service mesh without a sidecar with ambient mode. And then we have a gateway API. Like Ingress had some sort of limitation. And then we have gateway API is becoming a universal API that anybody can implement and extend the functionality. So I think how we have gateway API, and we have also API gateway, then we have service mesh. So how this full picture works in an infrastructure setting.
Yeah, that's this is source of endless confusion, of course, because the naming is interesting. So Gateway API is nothing else than just an API. Right? It took me a while to realize, okay, what is Gateway API? What is the core? Well, the core is just a CRDs that are interpreted by your implementation, and you are free to you were free to choose an implementation of the Ingress API. Now you're free, and the most popular service meshes, but also Ingress controllers like Nginx and so on, they do implement Gateway API, and that's of course obviously been becoming the de facto Ingress API for Kubernetes, right? So you still have to make choices, right? Just by adopting Gateway API, it doesn't take the responsibility away of making the decision on which implementation you want to use. Istio does implement Gateway API for a long time now, and we're also even increasing the adoption, as in increasing more and more of the objects that forms the Gateway API from the stable to the experimental. API Gateway, of course, is going nowhere. I mean, you do need to, if you have the use case, and we argue that there are many use cases for API Gateway. If you want to control the routing of the API, if you want to have things like monetization of the API, but also security on the API. If you want to implement GraphQL, for example, there's nothing else but an API gateway for your cluster. And our position is solo, of course, but we can argue about it. But that having an API gateway that is very well integrated with the service mesh makes so much sense, right? Because now you have one way to express and to define everything from the northwest to the east-west traffic. So that's one thing that we stand by this idea solo. And so again, like, it's so exciting because now we are at the dawn of a new era, of course, with Gateway API. So it's like we're witnessing history in the making. Will be interesting when we will need to move all the ingress resources to Gateway API. We are already doing it. Most of our demos actually today, the demo that I work with my esteemed colleagues, Marino and Peter, we try to base them on Gateway API already, because we recognize is the future. So we embrace the future even before it's here, or as soon as we recognize the need to show that we are into the future. We are taking care. We are considering. We want to future-proof our solutions, and also our Glue Gateway. We support Gateway API all across the board in our product line, and also in the EST open source project, of course. So.
Yes, absolutely. As you mentioned, there's a lot of ambiguity in the open source ecosystem around these two implementation. But I think the Kubernetes community did a great thing, because Ingress has some limitation, and that has been implemented by all of the vendors. And I think the vendors will create some sort of API that's become uncompatible when you actually migrate it to the newer implementation. So I think the better way to do it, you have a universal API that the implementer can use and everybody can have access to. So basically, you can use or extend the functionality you are looking for. So I think the Gateway API is now supported by all the service meshes. Even Linkerd is now supporting, Kuma mesh is supporting. I think the Traffic has their own mesh. They're also supporting in it as well. So I think if you actually DevOps or developers, I think you can look at Gateway API is a primarily concern with managing external access to services, and handles tasks related to traffic routing, load balancing, and managing external access point, or typically load balancing or SSL termination. And it's all around external traffic. But for the internal traffic, you need a service mesh. That job is to actually communicate. You have a mutual TLS between the microservices when they start communicating with each other. So I think it doesn't, it's not a choice, but it definitely, you have to see a coordination between both of them, because you want to access the external traffic, and also you want to have a zero trust architecture. That the term happening all the day we see, like both the microservices communicate via mutual TLS channel. So basically, you have, even in the private data center or the private networking, you don't trust the communication flow is on the data side. You have to encrypt the traffic. So I think this will definitely work side by side, and we see the innovation happening in the both space. And I think one can't take the position of other, because their actually aim is different. One is not a same aim for both of these two technologies.
Yeah, although of course you make a good point. Gateway API historically, of course, like being adopted for the northwest traffic, north south traffic, so traffic incoming. But there's an initiative called Gamma. Of course, now nobody remembers what Gamma stands for, but it's a working group. It's a subgroup of the Gateway API initiative, and it's about adopting Gateway API for service mesh, right? So, and then also for east-west graph traffic, it will play an important role. Again, it's like we can adopt Gateway API right now, but you still need a service mesh. You still need an ingress. You still need something that will actually do the work. Gateway API is just the interface. which is great. I mean, having standards foster innovation, right? So imagine if we had to have, all the screws in our house would be different or very specific. All the all the plugs would be different. But so because we all adhere on standards, it doesn't stifle innovation, but it actually promotes, because it levels the field for all the players, and then you can really shine based on your strengths, and not just because you cut yourself an island of monopoly. So that's why Gateway API is one of the biggest thing, is one of the driver of innovation within cloud native networking, and definitely within the CNCF. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we have Mourinho with us, a
Yeah.
legendary, most iconic figure in the community, is doing wonderful content. And also, both of these guys, Mourinho and Alessandro, is actually creation of Istio Certified Associate. They created an exam guide. Please do check that out because the Istio certification is one of the horizon in 2024. So go check that out as well. Great to see Mourinho, you are here with us. And now we're moving back to another question. I think that's will definitely, I want to hear your opinion because you have a good reflection from the community, and also you have hearing some communication with the customers on the company side as well. So on why can you help us reflect on the service mesh landscape, and what's new and what's cut off from the landscape we have in 2023?
Yep. So for our side, of course, we double down on ambient mesh within Solo, but also within the community of Istio. Really, Istio Day in Chicago, ambient was a big part of it. So we really wanted because we pushed for it, and our idea seems to be resonating with the community. I think there was really a good reception of the idea of moving beyond the Sidecar model into more of a hybrid Sidecar-less plus a waypoint proxy. So that for us was a big deal, and we look forward to get even more use cases, more documentation, more material about ambient mesh, right? So we believe this is going to be kind of the de facto, maybe not the default, but it doesn't matter what is the default when you run the command line, when you install a service mesh, but it matters that it's something that people understand more, right? So, and it's our job to talk about it and make sure that everybody understands the why and the how of Sidecar-less service mesh. Definitely, it's been interesting year for everybody. So we had great conversation in Amsterdam and Chicago. I was at the booth. I talked to a lot of people, and this it's crazy how many people they use service mesh and they don't really talk about it that much. Maybe sometimes they are more hype technology, of course. They take the center scene, but we would like actually more people to come forward in the community of Istio for sure, but also other service meshes as well. But we particularly care about the Istio community, so we would like everybody to come forward and share their stories, because there is a lot of interesting story, and we create a community by sharing stories. That's one thing that really unites humans all over the world. That when we sit at the table or open a camera and we start talking about how we use things, how we use our tools, the tools we love, and why we love them, and maybe sometimes why we don't love them. It's not always all rosy stories, but that's how we form a community, by sharing stories. So I'm looking forward to increase this participation, right? So everybody can feel they are welcome and they can share their stories.
Yes, absolutely. And I think from, as you mentioned, like from the landscape point of view, the ambient is a very new thing. When we're starting of the 2023, but it's 2024. We draw more use. I think more and more technologies are actually leveraging the eBPF mode. They see some sort of very new thing that eBPF can achieve. So I think eBPF, like in the simplest form, but how people can describing in a single sentence is eBPF is what JavaScript is to the browser, and eBPF is similar to the kernel, Linux kernel. So you can advance or enhance the functionality on the fly. Because as you mentioned, like there are some organization that can't run a sidecar container because of the compute. Uh, there are some compute conflicts in within the infra setup, so it's tougher for them. And having a sidecar, it's been a debate for a very long time in the service mesh community, but rightfully so, we are heading toward a model where is a service mesh can be enabled with very few infrastructure hustle compared to the 2017, 18, 19. It's a very big project. Even in the Istio, you have a control plane, and then the control plane has 4 or 5 different components in it. So some smaller organizations say, oh, it's tough, we already doesn't have a full knowledge and capacity to understand how the Kubernetes work. How do we able to actually jump up into the new abstraction that the service mesh provide, that developers and the DevOps engineer coordinate and do a efficient infrastructure deployment? That's tougher for them. So now I think it's good, like the eBPF and the sidecar versus ambient mode is becoming a horizon in this 2024. We see more innovation happening in this space as well.
Yeah.
So I will ask, because you work in the solo side, and I usually ask when I meet people on the internet, and you working with a lot of the good customers. Solo have some wonderful customers list, and they have been in this space for a very long time. And another good thing is that this team is actually filled with very great superstars. They have a very good knowledge, very much community oriented people. They have a broader reach. They talk to people every day. So, based on your recent conversation with the customers and the community, can you suggest us what are the common hurdles that individual or enterprises have seen while adopting the service mesh or Istio in their infrastructure deployment?
Yeah, definitely complexity. You make a good point. So complexity of sidecar is definitely for us. We work with this. We breathe and eat service mesh for breakfast, but not everybody's in the same boat, and it's rightly so. People don't want complexity. So there are two kind of complexity, right? The good one and the bad one, right? So the one that brings you value, and you're running multi-cluster, multi-cloud architectures. You do need a little complexity, right? So you can't just get away with complexity. And then there is the bad complexity, the one that is there just because we didn't solve the technical debt, or the complexity that just because we don't understand how things work. So we want to, of course, get rid of the bad complexity and just embrace the complexity that brings value. So that's why ambient mesh is an answer to this plea for simplicity and ease of adoption. And it's very good. It's amazing that an open source project listen to the plea and to the wishes and desires of the community, and they steer. It's the sidecar mode is very ingrained, right? So very, very old, and it's been around for many years. So it's amazing that a community can just turn around and adopt and embrace different models, because they do make sense, right? So that's I see it as a very good point for the Istio community to also question, the status quo, question, are we actually doing something right, or can we do something better? That's it's not always communities are not always so open to change, right? So, and that's amazing of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation communities, all the projects together, but also specifically about the Istio community.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, without I let you go, can you actually briefly explain what the trend do you see we have been actually noticing going forward in 2024? Because as of we speaking, today is January the 16th, and there's
Mhm.
a very long next 11 month is coming ahead of us. So we can't predict every month what's going to happen. But near to the KubeCon Paris, what do you see a community is most exciting about? And plus, what are the startup who are actually adopting enterprise adopting service mesh? What do you see? What the common challenges they would definitely see, and you can actually draw some pointer to overcome those challenges.
Absolutely. So my prediction is that Cilium CNI will become the de facto CNI of Kubernetes. It's good to have choices. Of course, there's a bunch of things out there, but definitely, from what we see, is the de facto CNI. And we will have also announcements from Solo. We embrace Cilium as a community. We have contribution to Cilium. We love it really. It's a great project. Strong foundation, some strong technical foundation. We definitely would like to see it as a de facto standard CNI, and we will have a product announcement around it and so on. As that foundation becomes stronger, so we all adhere and agree on a strong foundation for the first OSI layers up to level 3 or something. Solve the problem of CNI, then becomes the problem of solving the application networking at the higher level where the money is, right? So where the value is, and we definitely want to see more adoption of service mesh to solve the classical challenges and hurdles, specifically security. And we would like to see even more mutual TLS and more authorization policies and more SPIFFE, more SPIRE, more of these things adopted by a larger community. And I would say that 2023 was very big on open telemetry, and I would like to see, and I think we will see more adoption of service mesh for specifically for observability use cases. I think we will have we have stuff to do. We have a lot of work to do on explaining why service mesh can help in the observability of open telemetry and all sorts of open standards. But I think it's an interesting point of view. It's an interesting use case for service mesh.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Alessandro. It's pleasure talking to you. So we talk about all of the technological things in the podcast today, but now we have a few conversation around outside of the tech live. So
Mhm.
speaking of 2024, what are the some of the tourist space, so some of the areas you will be actually have eyes on visiting in 2024?
Oh, definitely looking forward to Salt Lake City later on, to Paris. I'm not sure I can. I mean, Islamabad is virtual, right? So maybe I'm
Yes,
also yes, but maybe I should submit the talk. I love traveling, and now I I pretty much enjoy my time abroad. So I love to spend some time visiting countries around the world. But yes, and also of course I'm looking forward to organize KCD Amsterdam 2024, which is going to be, we are just started to work on it, but it's going to be big. You're always welcome to join. You'll be our guest star. But yeah, it's we'll do more of the same and better, and with more care and compassion for each other. What I really hope 2024 would be maybe the year where we see the end of the many wars and conflicts around the world. One can hope, of course, but yeah, I think we had enough of that. We can live peacefully together and just work, help each other, not shoot each other.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And before I let you go, what are the sports you are liking or watching most? Is it a football, or is it a motorsport, or is it something else?
I'm a typical Italian, so I don't care for soccer or football, as you call it. So that's you have the wrong Italian on the show. But just yesterday, just a curiosity, just yesterday I started Krav Maga. It's an interesting martial art. But if I have to choose a sport, I've been doing some martial art in the past, like Aikido. It's a sport for the mind and for the body. It satisfies both side of the equation for me, and that's what I love. Yeah, boxing as well. So it's very interesting for me. But yeah, I don't watch sports. I tend to make it. That's better.
Yes, absolutely. Boxing and the martial arts are a great sport because they basically actually you can actually evaluate how well your body and mind working together
Yeah,
as an orchestration. This is your orchestration test of
that
your body with all the different microservices communicate in a matter of a second because the punch is very fast. It's coming towards you, and if you have a strong reflexes, you can actually
yeah.
bypass or hit a blocker. So it's a very good sport, obviously, but it has some sort of very skinnier punches. That's why people don't want to do it in a practice
it
session.
it's all about keeping mental clarity under pressure, right? So, and I'm also a practicing philosopher, or at least I love philosophy. My personal philosophy is Stoicism. If And I'll be happy to discuss Stoicism with anyone. My DMs are open. So yeah, it's about like being resilient. So getting punched and keep going, and usually you win because your mind is there and mind is clear.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of the sports definitely help you how to do a patience and how do not lose control under very frustrating and sometimes bizarre circumstances. Sports, in a sense, that makes you a better person because you have some very good decision to make in just a matter of a second. That's great to see. But I'm actually support. I've been a big fan of the soccer, and I used to watch Inter Milan very long time. It's been my favorite club from Italian Serie A. And there are a lot of my friend here in where I live is liking it, specifically Inter Milan. It's one of the great team, but also one of my friend who also like AC Milan. Then we have a very fighting conversation between each other.
Is the derby, right? So it's two part of the city fighting each other. In Italy, it's an endless source of memes. The derby, soccer, it's part of the culture. But I haven't been living in Italy for a long time, so maybe that's why I'm not exactly into
Yeah.
this culture. But hey, I do remember going to the stadium with my father. It's fond memories, but I keep it as a memory now. So
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So once again, thank you very much, Alessandro. And I can let you know, people, Alessandro is in the process of making up his own podcast, and I will share the link on my YouTube channel once he publish and the guests start coming up into his show. So he's been doing wonderful stuff. And there are some YouTube conversation he has also a study guide on, I think Cilium has certification they
yeah,
put together on Cilium certification guide, and also Istio, ISICA, Istio certified associate. Both of these guides available with all the content that covered in the paper. You have some labs and also the walk-on tutorial. So
yeah.
make sure to check that out as well. I will include the link into the description. Really enjoy talking to you and glad to see Mourinho actually on with us on this YouTube channel. Great to see him on the
Absolutely.
conversation.
Check the solo blog. We just published an article about the Cilium Week, the preparation for the certification, which is just available. I personally passed the ISTIO certified associate a couple of weeks ago, so I'll be happy to help anyone that wants to pass, and we'll make even more content and material because we really want people to understand technology, specifically service mesh, because the more we are, the more fun we have, right? So that's one reason.
Yes, absolutely. And here's a link, solo.io. So make sure to check out how the API gateway, service mesh, and CNI solutions work together. And make sure you are visiting. There are some wonderful content in the solos.io as well. So with that is our first episode of the 2024. And once again, really thankful for Alessandro to join us and share his service mesh journey. And we'll be inviting him more and more in this show going down the road as well. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye, everyone. And thank you, Alessandro. Bye bye.
Thank you, same.